Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Swedish on the home side, half English on the away side. Both of these breweries have featured on the channel before, albeit the Swedish brewery probably more frequently and more recently than the English brewery, but the English brewery are very well respected when it comes to the New England hazy style IPAs, and the Swedish brewery are known for being a very good all-round brewery, but recently they have been doing a lot of IPAs actually. So curious to see how this collaboration turns out. For this review then, for the Swedish side of things, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. I've got to get that catchphrase in when it comes to the Gothenburg beers, as you know, but we're going to head outside of the city a little bit to Landvetter, which is of course home to Dugges Bryggeri, who are one of my favourite Swedish craft breweries incidentally. For this one then, we are going to have a little look at the Lunar Liquid. This one comes in at 7.5% ABV. It's a New England hazy style IPA and it's brewed in collaboration with North Brewing, who come from Leeds in Yorkshire in England. So yeah, this beer was released as part of the Tillfällig sortiment in Systembolaget. I want to say this one came out on the 15th of September, if I'm remembering correctly. It came out with a couple of other quite interesting beers as well actually, but there are, in September there have been 3 Dugges releases actually, so this is the third after the 2 that came out in the Lokalis Moskallig assortment, part of the Bite series, their new West Coast IPA series. But yeah, definitely cool to see North and Dugges collaborating together, and I'm curious to see what they throw up actually, because Dugges, as I've said to you before, have been getting a little bit more experimental with IPAs and things like that, having for a long time been mainly an imperial stout and a kind of sour beer focused brewery actually. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then, a 7.5% New England IPA. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Dugges Bryggeri and from North Brewing. No doubt you will see more from both of those breweries at some point in the near future, but it's more likely that you'll see Dugges first. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you and another list for all the English ones. Both of those are being added to very regularly, albeit the Swedish one more regularly. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to the brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Dugges Bryggeri first off, since they are the home brewery. So as I've told you many a time before, Dugges Bryggeri are based in Landvetter on the outskirts of Gothenburg in Sweden, very close to one of the Gothenburg airports, the bigger one. But the brewery was established back in 2005 in Mölndal to the south of the city by Mikael Engström Dugge, who of course it's named after. But a few years previously, Mikael had met an Englishman who was selling second-hand breweries, and this really got him thinking about brewing his own beer. So he studied the very complex Swedish alcohol laws, visited various other breweries around the country, and then started buying equipment to put together his own brewery. And this culminated in the opening of their first facility in Mölndal back in 2005. Over the following years they continued to expand that little small facility that they had, but by 2009 they'd outgrown the original brewery, and so the following year they moved up to Landvetter, closer to the airport, in 2010. So the older brewery had a capacity of around 1,500 hectolitres of beer per year at maximum, but the new brewery started off with a capacity of 8,000 hectolitres per year, and this has been more than doubled in recent years. Over the years the brewery became very well known for their kind of fruit and sour, and also fruit and sour beers along with the imperial stouts, but more recently they've been investing in a barrel aging program. There haven't been too many beers released from that barrel aging program through Systembolaget though, if I remember rightly, but more recently, I guess over the last 18 months, 2 years, they've been releasing a lot more IPAs, both New England and more recently West Coast IPAs actually. They've got the Crush and the Fresh series, which are their New England IPA series, and now they have the Bite series as well actually, which is pretty cool. So yeah, these guys are very interesting brewery. These guys are not scared to try different styles either. I've had quads, I've had various different things from these guys that have always turned out very nicely. They're very good at putting adjuncts into the beer as well actually, but they don't do that all that often actually. They are more focusing on the IPAs and stuff these days through Systembolaget. But one of the beers I would really recommend you try from these guys if you come across it would be the Egypt or Big Egypt. That is their kind of classic imperial stout, and also the Tropic Thunder is probably one of their kind of classic beers as well. So see if you can get a hold of that one. Actually, that's a very, very nice and kind of, it's almost like a kind of cult classic Swedish sour beer, to be honest with you too. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Dugges Bryggeri for the moment. One of the really well respected craft breweries over here, and one of the ones that really kick-started the whole Gothenburg beer scene actually. There's a lot of really good breweries these days in Gothenburg, but I think Dugges were one of the first ones on the scene. They recently celebrated their 15th anniversary. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Dugges for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. These guys have been very prolific over the years actually. But yeah, let's go on to the away side of things, to the English side of this beer. So North Brewing, as I've told you before, are based in Leeds, and the company was founded by John Ginnell and Christian Townsley, who owned the North Beer Bar, which was opened back in 1997. Today they operate 6 venues around the city, and apparently North Bar used to work quite closely with the likes of James Clay and Vertigo Drinks to promote craft beer in Yorkshire. So the brewery that they, this was really what inspired them to get into craft beer, because they saw the craft beer scene really taking off. But the brewery itself is located in the Taverners Walk Industrial Estate, and it has a 200-person tap room and a 15 BBL brew kit. So the brewers at the brewery are Seb Brink, who used to work for Golden Owl, and then Darius Darwell, who worked for the Bristol Beer Factory. And over the years they've just been kind of scaling up. North Brewing have become really quite prominent in the English craft beer scene. They are really well respected as one of the main, I guess you would say they're probably one of the really hyped breweries over in England when it comes to the New England hazy IPAs actually. But there's more and more breweries kind of joining that list of really well-respected New England producers actually. So yeah, North Beer, I know that some of the English guys, I think it might be Rob Hobson, says that they are his favourite brewery at the moment actually, and go and check out all the English beer tubers. You'll see the North Beers reviewed very, very regularly from the likes of Craig at Kent Beer Reviews, Jayco Beer, Harry at Blue Nose Beer Reviews, Dean at Dean's Beer Reviews, trying to make sure I don't forget anyone. You've got Rob at Hopscene, you have Christoph at Ale Degustations, and you've got Greg at Bullman's Beer Reviews as well. There's lots of very good English beer tubers these days. You've also got Peter the Clueless Drinker, Adam at Mersey Beers. If you want to see North Beers reviewed more regularly, I do recommend that you check out some of these guys. But the beers I've had from North Beer have been very nice. I think the most recent one that I had was one of the West Coast IPAs, which I'm sure was a collaboration with one of the Swedish breweries actually, but it came in the North can actually. That was produced over in England and then brought into Systembolaget. I can't remember who that was with though, come to think of it. But yeah, we are getting a few of their beers regularly over here now, and you will see me return to North Brewing quite soon with some of the beers that Adam from Mersey Beer sent me. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about North Beer for the moment. As of September 2020, these guys have produced around 160 different beers, and yeah, I think they've only been around for maybe the last 3 years or something like that. So 160 different beers as an output is pretty damn impressive actually. I'm sure it's only 2017 or so. I'm sure the first beers that I saw from these guys came out in around 2017 or so, when I was doing some stuff with Durham University actually. So definitely one of the English breweries that you want to check out. But if you want to learn more about this brewery, as always, check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and you can keep up to date with all of the local, with all the recent goings on. And of course, if you are interested in all those different beers that they've done, I would recommend you check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all of those. But yeah, let's have a go at this one then and see how we get on. So as I said to you at the start of the video, this one is a 7.5% New England IPA. Apparently, it's hopped with Citra, Columbus, Chinook, Mosaic and Zythos. We know all of these hops fairly well. One thing I didn't realise about Zythos though was that it is apparently a hop blend. I think it's a Hop Union trademark blend. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they would use that in this beer, but we know that Citra is that kind of mango-y type hop. It's got a lot of mango, a lot of little tropical fruit complexities with it. Mosaic has that lovely kind of tangerine-y, orangey sort of thing. Columbus has the big floral aromatic spice to it. Chinook is the big piney resin and darker grapefruity one. So there's a really impressive hop bill in this one. On the side of the beer it says, "This is Lunar Liquid. The moon, an astronomical body orbiting Earth, is its only natural satellite. It's the 5th largest satellite in the solar system and the largest among planetary satellites relative to the size of the planet that it orbits. The Moon is the second densest satellite in the solar system, and this is its liquid, Lunar. So yeah, pretty cool actually, I have to say. So yeah, this one is quite nice, and it's got wheat and oats in it, this one, so it should be pretty nice actually. I remember the North beers being a little bit more wheaty and bitey actually, so I'm curious to see how the North influence affects this one. So yeah, let's get this guy out, we'll get on with the tasting. Plain gold bottle cap on this one, so without further ado, let's have a taste of this and see how we get on. Curious about this beer, so yeah, let's go for it. That looks pretty damn nice, I have to say. So yeah, just checking the camera controls alright, and there we go. So yeah, as you can see with this one, it's poured a lovely, I'd say that's one of the more yellow leaning New England IPAs that I've come across. If I shine the light through it actually, it does have a good degree of haze to it, but again, it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs that I've come across. You can see that this beer is poured with a nice 2/3 finger of a frothy cream white coloured head, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but I mean overall it does look pretty nice. And if I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see the degree of haze that this beer has. It is, I mean, for a 7.5%, and it is kind of getting there, but yeah, not the soupiest and gloopiest of New Englands that I've come across, but it certainly looks the part for this style. And I can tell you something, some of the fruity notes that are coming off of this beer straight away do come across very nicely. So let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. I'm very curious to see what this beer has in store for us, so let's go for it, guys. Ooh, yeah, that smells pretty nice. So yeah, straight away with this one you get some of those lovely big kind of fruity notes. The malt base for me, you can smell a good bit of wheaty bitiness to this, and I'm guessing this will be the kind of the North influence in this. But yeah, you get a good little bit of a kind of bitey wheaty note out of it. Underneath that, you can smell a kind of quite thick white bready quality in there. But the wheaty bitiness is what's striking me first about this one. You sugar the beer up a little bit. If you sugar the beer up, that really makes the wheat come out. But when you let it settle, it does become a little bit more oaty and kind of creamy almost. I'm getting a wee touch of a biscuity note out of this one, but not really. This one really strikes me as more of a kind of wheaty, bitey type New England IPA. As I say, you get some of the creaminess from the oats further forward on the nose. It does get a little bit sweeter and smoother further forward on the nose. But yeah, the malt base of this one strikes me as fairly kind of straight up actually. I like how that goes together in this one. Yeah, you get that lovely kind of oaty, kind of creamy note out of it. As I say, that becomes more and more prominent the more that you smell of the beer. There's a wee tiny touch of a kind of Werther's Originally brown sugary note coming out of this one for me. And I've noticed that in quite a few New England IPAs recently. I think there's a bit of a trend where they do have a little bit more kind of sweetness to them, but this one definitely strikes me as leaning more towards that wheaty and bitey side of things. But it really does get more creamy the more that you smell of it, to be honest with you. That's an interesting point to make about this beer. But yeah, I do like how this one goes together. Yeah, the malt base in this is pretty nice actually. I'm curious to see how that translates into the flavour though, but yeah, pretty much a straight shooting malt base. Good strong bitey wheatiness to it. You can smell the white bread underneath. There's a good bit of oaty creaminess there further forward on the nose, and you've got a wee bit of that Werther's Originally type sweetness coming out of the beer as well. On the hoppy side of things, you do get a little touch of earthiness there, but you can get that big spicy note from the Columbus coming out of the beer. I'm guessing the Zeus might be giving, the Zythos, sorry, not the Zeus, the Zythos might be giving you some of that too. But yeah, I don't get so much of the kind of piney, resiny dankness that you would expect of the Chinook actually. It's really, this beer strikes me as being more floral and spicy. You do get a little bit of grassiness in there as well, but the green side of the hops for me, that definitely leans a little bit more. It definitely leans a little bit more towards the kind of floral side of things, that sort of floral spicy end of the spectrum. But yeah, the aroma of this one, it is quite bitey. As I say, you've got the big floral spice there, you've got that bitey wheat, and on the fruity side of things, it's kind of interesting. You do get the citri mango notes out of it. It is kind of, to be honest, it is quite typical of what you'd expect. You do get a wee bit of a kind of passion fruity note out of it. You get some of the mangoes, and you get a wee bit of the orange. I really think the kind of passion, I think the passion fruit comes out quite a bit in this one, and that's mainly going to be from the Zythos. But I guess probably what would happen with this is that you would get the kind of more grapefruity notes that you'd expect to the Chinook. That will make the Citra aromas just feel that little bit more pungent and citrusy almost. So I suspect that that's probably what's going on in the aroma here, because it does have a bit of a darker, almost passion fruity note coming out of it, this one. That just slightly darker aroma. So yeah, I like how that goes together with this beer. Yeah, so it's actually quite a pungent aroma, this one. It's still reserved in the glass. I mean, in recent times, I mean, with the Dugges beers, I found that the aromas haven't really jumped out of the glass, actually, as they can do with some other beers. They're quite reserved, but when you sugar the beer up, you really can get a good bit of complexity to them. But yeah, not getting too much in the way of orangey notes out of this one. There is a wee bit of an oily, kind of tangerine-y thing, which you'd expect from the Mosaic, and to a degree from the Zythos. But yeah, mainly a kind of passion fruity, kind of more pungenty, citrusy note coming out of this beer. The aroma of that one's quite interesting. So yeah, quite spicy, quite wheaty and bitey, and also quite pungent in its kind of citrusy characters, to be honest with you. So yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But we're going to have a taste of this one now and see how we get on. So this one is the Lunar Liquid, a New England hazy IPA, whatever you want to call it. It's 7.5% ABV from Dugges Bryggeri in Gothenburg here in Sweden, or Landvetter to be precise, and North Brewing, who come from Leeds in Yorkshire in England. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål. That's nice, actually. That is pretty damn solid. Thumbs up to both the breweries involved here. One of the things I think it's this beer. It feels a little bit thicker than some of the other New Englands that I've had from Dugges in recent times. And you know, I had noticed that with the Dugges IPAs, like their mouthfeels. Dugges do seem to have a little bit of a kind of lighter mouthfeel to them, I would say. But this one is definitely a little bit thicker. You know, if Dugges could take this mouthfeel and put it into their other IPAs as well, I think that would take their beers, so their IPAs, just up a little notch. I think the Dugges IPAs, they've got really nice flavour profiles generally, but the mouthfeel I think could do with just being a little bit thicker. But I think they've got it with this one. I do think they've got it here, actually. Yeah, this one's definitely got a bit more kind of oiliness and things to it, a bit more of an oily kind of creamy character to it, which is quite nice, actually. But yeah, this one, it is actually quite similar. The fruits are a little bit different, but the kind of the malt base and the hoppy and the green side of the hops are kind of what you would expect from the aroma, to be honest with you. So let's try and break this down a little bit then. Straight away with this beer, across the middle of the palate, you do get a bit of that white bready, wheaty kind of thing. It is actually a little bit more kind of grainy underneath as well, which is quite interesting. But if you go to the back third of your palate, you can feel there's a slightly thicker kind of wheaty note coming off this one, a little bit more of a kind of bitey note to it, actually, which is kind of nice. Yeah, there is quite a nice it does, the wheaty bitiness really comes out of this a bit more. You do get it going further into the aftertaste. It's actually, the wheat is a little bit smoother than you might believe initially, and it's as the kind of beer progresses into the aftertaste, you start to get more of the kind of bitiness coming out of the beer, which is quite interesting. But yeah, the way that the flavour goes together in this one is really quite nice, actually. I like how this beer goes together. Yeah, but the bready and wheaty backbone that it has is quite nice. You will notice that just building and becoming a bit more spicy almost the further that you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, as you move forward into the middle third of your palate, you can feel the beer just feels a little bit lighter. There's a few grainy aspects underneath, and you still get some of that wheaty pungency spreading forward a little bit, but nowhere near as thick in the middle third of your palate as it is in the other ones. But yeah, you can feel a kind of layer of kind of smoother creamy oats coming out of it there, actually. And there is a wee tiny little bit of an almost Werther's originally brown sugar there, right in the middle of the palate, but not really too prominent. It does feel that the oats in this one really kind of, they form, you've got the bready base, you've got a bit of the wheatiness just kind of creeping in on top of that, then you've got a layer of creamy oats, and then just a wee touch of that Werther's originally kind of brown sugar sitting on top of this one. So it's quite nice in that sense, but I'd say overall the malt base, it's a bit smoother than you might think, but it really does start to lean more towards the wheaty side of things the further you go into the aftertaste. So I like how that I do like how that goes together. In terms of the hoppy side of things, then I think we've said all we really need to say about the malt base. It's pretty straight up, but it is nicely done. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, then back corners of the palate, there's a little bit of an earthiness in there. But as you move further forward from that, the beer quite quickly actually gets quite dank, this one. I do find this New England IPA a bit more dank. You can feel the Chinook really playing a role there. That wasn't so obvious in the aroma, I have to say. But then you feel the darker, more dank qualities of the Chinook in behind that. But on top of that, you get, on the sides of the tongue, you get more of the kind of spicy. You do get more of the kind of spicier... you do get a little bit more of the kind of spicy Columbus type qualities out of this one, which is quite interesting. I guess the Zythos would contribute to that a little bit. I'm not sure what hops are in the Zythos blend right enough, but that probably would contribute a little bit to the spiciness that this beer has. But yeah, as you reach the front corners of the palate, as you go round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy in my mind. So yeah, nice kind of lighter grassy note in there. Behind the front curve of the palate, you've got that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters roll out of the beer. For me, the fruit in this one, it does have a little bit more oiliness to it than I remember some of the other Dugges IPAs having. I think the fruits are a little bit more oily in this. But yeah, if you go right towards the back of that front third of your tongue, there is definitely a bit of a darker grapefruity note to this one. I think that'll be the Chinook. I'd be curious to know, because normally when it comes to Columbus and the Chinook, you would add those in the earlier stage of the boil. Whenever you want, bittering hops are normally added once you get the boil up to the 100-degree mark. You put in your bittering hops, you calculate how much you want for your IBUs, blah blah blah. But usually, Columbus and Chinook would be added at this point. But Chinook can really be used as an aroma hop as well. I'm not a great fan of it as an aroma hop, right enough. I don't think it works as well as others do. But I'm not sure exactly where they'll be adding it in this one. But yeah, usually Columbus and Chinook would be used as mainly bittering hops. I don't know about the Zythos. They might be using a bit of both in that. But this beer, for a New England, it does come across as a little bit more bitter, actually. So there's a good bit of spiciness to this one. But round the front curve of the palate, definitely lighter and grassy, I have to say. But yeah, the flavour coming out of this beer is quite nice. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, a bit of a darker kind of grapefruity note there. It does become a bit more passion fruity as you move forward a little bit. But then yeah, you start to get some of the softer mangoes you'd expect from Citra. And you get a wee bit of the kind of... the mosaic, I don't find the mosaic is very prominent in this one, actually. I think it's more... This one is definitely more a kind of stronger tropical fruit, a little bit more of a mango. And you do get, as I say, you get a little touch of a kind of mosaic-y. You get a wee touch of a mosaic-y kind of orange out of this one, but not a lot. I really don't find... Normally with mosaic you get a kind of oily, tangerine-y kind of part on the front tip of your tongue, but I really don't get so much of that in this beer. This one for me has got a more pungent grapefruity, passion fruity note than a softer mango, and I think the mango-y notes really kind of dominate the rest of that fruity part of your palate, which is interesting. I would have expected mosaic to come out a little bit more, but mosaic would be responsible partially for the earthiness that you have in this beer as well. So that's an interesting point about this one. And yeah, you get a wee bit of the orange behind the front tip of your palate, but for me, not a lot in this one. Not a lot of orange coming out of this beer. It's a bit more noticeable the further you go into the aftertaste. It does feel a little touch oily on the tip of the tongue, but really for me, the most prominent things in the aftertaste is that floral spice and a bit of the dankness, a bit of the bitey wheat, and then you've got that kind of passion fruity note from the Zythos the Chinook, and I guess partially from the Citra as well. That's what really lingers into the aftertaste with this one. So yeah, it's quite a nice beer. It's definitely one of the more kind of pungent sort of New England IPAs I've had in recent times. Definitely leaning towards the floral, wheaty, and darker, is more citrusy, tropical fruit side of things. So yeah, definitely an interesting one. In terms of the how would you say? In terms of the what would we say, in terms of the kind of mouthfeel of this one, I'd say that this is at the top end of mid-body. As I say, I think this one's a bit thicker than the other beers I've had from Dugges in recent times. The mouthfeel overall, I'd say kind of top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation's very smooth. It does have a bit more creaminess to it. This one, there's a wee touch of an oily quality. There's some nice bigger hoppy bitterness to this. I think this maybe has about 50 IBUs, this one. I think it is a bit stronger. The malt base is quite smooth, a little touch sweet as well. But yeah, I think that I do find this one a little bit smoother, a little bit sweeter. But you have got some nice with the malt base as well. It's quite smooth, a little touch sweeter, but it does have quite a bite, a kind of slightly more bitey, spicy sort of thing. The hoppy bitterness is quite big in this. Then the fruits are more kind of smooth and almost creamy like in their character as well. So yeah, definitely a thicker New England IPA compared to the other Dugges ones I've had recently. But I think it's another quite nicely done beer from Dugges. I can't really see anything more than that about it. It's a solid one, and I do hope that they continue with a slightly thicker mouthfeel, because I think that's the Dugges beers, the Dugges IPAs I've had recently. They've been really nice in terms of flavour profile. They just need to be a little touch thicker in my mind, and if they can repeat this mouthfeel, I think they'll be definitely on the right track with this. But yeah, this was another nice beer, an interesting collaboration, this one. Definitely a more pungent and bitey New England IPA compared to some of the other ones I've had from Dugges before. I think the North influence is quite apparent in this one for sure. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this. This one was the Lunar Liquid, a 7.5% New England IPA from Dugges Bryggeri in Landvetter, just outside of Gothenburg, brewed in collaboration with North Brewing from Leeds in Yorkshire in England. An interesting beer, this one, and I'm glad I was able to review it for you. So let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Dugges Bryggeri as well, and North Brewing. We will return to both of these breweries at some point in the fairly near future, but in the meantime, thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Until the next time, stand you just now, check out my social media, check out North and Dugges, and I will catch you guys in another review very quickly. Cheers.